Hello class, welcome to ENC 1102. I'm Professor Flores, and today's lesson will focus on journal responses. Let's take a look at how a journal response is formulated. This is a very crude visual of what the journal response process is involved. First, you have the I. The I, in this case, is you, the reader. The I interacts with the text. And then the final product will be that journal response that you will have to write after interacting with the text. Let's look first at the I. In this case, the I is really the sum of what makes you an individual. Some of the things that are involved are your education, your experiences, and your gender. These influence how you interact with the text. Whether that text is a short story, a poem, a play, an essay. For this course, we will be focusing on short stories and poems. And then the final product is your journal response. When you're reading a text, whether it's a short story or poem, you bring the sum of all of what makes you unique as an individual in the reading process. For the sake of ENC 1102, we want to say that you're doing a close reading of the text, meaning that you're looking for deeper meanings in reading. When you interact with the text, the result can be a journal response. The journal, or the word journal, usually points to what were known as diaries, and these were personal writings that most people did not see. These were personal to the person who wrote them, and it usually involved a reaction to some experience. With this assignment, what I'm asking you to do is to write your personal reactions and comments to a particular text. Whenever you interact with a text, you'll have an emotional reaction first before you have an intellectual one. So for example, if you're reading something, reading a story, you either, as an initial reaction, might say that you either like or dislike the story. That points to emotion. But I want you to do more in this journal response. I want you to not only have an emotional reaction, but more importantly, that you go to the next phase, which is an intellectual response. And here you'll talk about the characters, you'll talk about the setting, you'll talk about plot, you'll talk about the symbols, you'll talk about the conflicts. As we proceed, you will gain more knowledge about these elements of fiction. However, for your first journal responses this week, I want you to focus on your emotional reaction to something in the story that drew your attention. Perhaps a character, perhaps a setting, perhaps the conflict. And then write a little bit about not only the emotional reaction you had, but more importantly, what about that text perhaps reflects on a main idea or a theme. A theme can be a universal idea that many of us might be able to relate to. So for example, a theme common to many stories is loss of innocence. Again, the journal response is 1 to 2 pages typed. Make sure that you follow the format that I have laid out in the handout Writing Journal Responses. Take a look at the sample journal response and also take a look at the journal response rubric to see what is it that I'm looking for. Make sure that if you are making a comment or you're reacting to something in the story or poem, that you perhaps take a quote or two so that you can then support whatever your comment or opinion might be with that quote from the story or poem line. So this is the basic formula to writing journal responses. Make sure also that you are following the proper formatting, and again, this is a work in progress. You will get better as you do more journal responses. But the key here is that you bring your individual experiences, your education, your gender, when you're reading and interacting with that text, and then the result will be that journal response.